Surag, you're on mute, I guess. Surag, you're on mute.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, thanks for noticing. And hello again, and thanks for joining today's session on Azure Security. And appreciate you guys have joined us. And today we were discussing about a few technologies on Azure Security and a demo on it as well. And today we have Lingaraj Benny, who is going to help us better understand the Azure security. He is a principal cloud consult as well as a Microsoft certified trainer. And before I move the mic to Lingaraj Benny, and he will um, to get started, I wanted to explain a few things about today's session. That is, there is going to be a recording of today's session, and secondly, there is a certificate of participation which you will receive after the session is concluded, and I'll share a form which you can fill out and basically receive it in your email that you have provided. If you're somebody who's joining us for the first time, we are conducting these kind of webinars and training in the community where you can participate for the completely free and learn more about Microsoft Azure and Microsoft technologies. If you're interested, you can join our community after a session. I'll share the link in the chat box. With that, I'm done here, and I'm moving the mic to Lingaraj to be getting started with the rest of the session. Over to you.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Good morning. Good morning, gentlemen and ladies. Thanks for being with us today. I'm really thrilled. After many months, I'm back on the spot where I start talking about Azure. I just want to check before I go ahead and talk anything about Azure or maybe the masterclass. Am I audible or maybe am I not audible? Just want to hear. Can someone ping us in the chat and confirm that I'm audible, not audible? Maybe Surag can look into it. If I'm not audible, please let me know. And sometimes, yeah, I'm in India, right? Sometimes we may lose power, but don't worry, I'll be back in a minute or two if that happens. So because it's a rainy season here in India. So that's a brief about what could cause as in trouble, or maybe as in a break for you guys. So yes, next 90 minutes will be amazing for all of us because I'm thrilled and hope you guys are also thrilled to learn something about Microsoft Azure security, right? So let's understand what exactly we're going to talk about today. And before to that, I just want to ensure you know about me, who I am, because you're going to talk to, or maybe you're going to spend your 90 minutes of morning time that in mid of the week with me. So I thought like you should be knowing about me. Um, Yes, I'm a pre-sales principal cloud consultant for a company called NTT, and I'm passionate about talking about Azure and Microsoft products. I've been doing this for the last 17 years. Yes, I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer on multiple products of Microsoft, not just on Azure. And I'm passionate about Azure. I've been working on Azure since 2011, like when it was just an old Windows Azure to now the Azure cloud. So that's on history what I've been there. I'm all over the internet. You can just Google about my name, or maybe follow me on LinkedIn. Maybe some more masterclasses, some more beautiful things. And yeah, someone was asking about Sentinel. Yes, sure, we will talk about Sentinel a bit in this, but deep dives maybe in next sessions. Maybe Surag is the right person to connect with that particular stuff. Okay. So before we speak about agenda of the session today, I just wanted to ensure this is a master class. This is a master class for making sure that what exactly you would get as an hint to learn Microsoft Azure security. That's AZ 500 in a nutshell. AZ 500 is a certificate course where people talk about it when they are interested in Azure cloud security. So what's what's in there for us? Yes, all the Azure security engineers, or maybe any cloud security engineer, has to go and three or maybe four circumstances when it comes to roles and responsibility. Maybe you are the one who will implement the security controls, or maybe maintain your organization security's posture, manage the identity, or maybe the active directories of active inventory of your users data, or maybe groups. Ensure that you protect the applications by accessing, or maybe for not being accessed by an unknown person. So that's what you might be doing as a security engineer. But when it comes to Azure, very much similar aspects we would carry out, which we would talk in a minutes from now. But just wanted to ensure that you are familiar with some of the basic needs when it comes to an Azure security engineers, which are on my screen. So the first thing is, anyways, I've already spoken, but yes, you are the one who would become an identifier, or maybe you are the remediator for some of the vulnerabilities what we would have in real scenarios, and ensure that you respond back to those security incidents using some of the CM tools. It could be your IBM native tool, or maybe it could be Azure Sentinel, right? So it could be possible uh, to take an automated answers, or maybe actions, right, for on behalf of your organization, so for your organization when you're at the threat. So that's about the security engineer, what exactly one would do as a security engineer. Okay, so there is a prerequisite. I don't want to go into deep dive into the prerequisite, but yes, as an Azure consultant, or maybe a trainer, I would recommend everyone to know the basics of Azure, basics of the cloud, and ensure that you understand the technology basically. Because what is a VPN, what is a networking, what is an IP, what is an SSL? These are all the things which are pretty important when it comes to understanding the security and understanding the incidents better when the security incident really happened, right? So that's a very important aspect when it comes to a prerequisite. So this certificate course, which I'm going to talk a bit of it in today's session of 90 minutes, but yes, there is more to learn, but we would touch base upon the first aspect, that is 30%, that is managed identity and access, out of which, I will try to cover the important ones, which are listed by Surah. And there are something more about to the AZ500, which talks about securing your perimeter, which is a networking aspect, and also some of the databases, storage, compute, which covers 25% of your requirement, and plus the security operations. Yeah, that's an absolute one, where we usually cover the Sentinel part as a CM tool. That's an MDR, right? Manage, detect, and respond. That's what we do it, and that's what it is based upon. Now, a bit of certification part before I hop into what is covered as in whole in terms of this particular certificate. I just wanted to ensure that you understand the role-based infrastructure certifications when you are trying to learn Microsoft Azure, and especially when it comes to the security part. So you have got AZ900, that is Azure Fundamentals. And if you are covering your security engineer certificate, you will become Azure Solution Architect Expert on cloud security or Azure security. Okay, so that's just a basic information, just for your information, because the learning which you're going to do, or maybe spend 90 minutes now, shouldn't be wasted, right? So that's a pretty important aspect which I wanted to cover as an MCT, and that's a prerequisite for us as well. So now I just want to ensure that what exactly the whole picture, of course, you would be learning if you are trying to learn, but this is something which you have on my screen currently, talks about the first one, the identity and access part. I'm not going to cover the whole set, but as an identity and access, there are many things which we talk about: Active Directory, hybrid identity, identity protection, privileged identity management, enterprise governance, application security. But today, as an agenda for the masterclass, we have selected three things: secure administering your Active Directory, configure AD Connect, and we'll talk about Azure AD using conditional access. Before I hop on to the next one, there is one part which I have not listed here, which Surag was mentioning earlier. That is, we are going to do a small task of installing Azure AD Connect. Um, I have done the half of, not half, actually 80% of the lab prepared yesterday. Only 20% of the practice I have just kept it for you guys to see or witness. How do we install Azure AD Connect on on-premises server and ensure that that connects to the tenant, right? So that being said, I just want to ensure that we have got you covered in what is Azure Active Directory. Okay. So basically, we're going to talk about some of the basics of Azure Active Directory and how that relates to the Azure and what are the basic things we have to ensure the synchronization between the Azure AD and AD Connect, not AD, Azure AD and the Windows AD and using the AD Connect. Plus, how does it really matter as in security for an organization, be it an enterprise, be it an SMB? How does you actually, cater something as in security for your employer or maybe your customers? That's what we are going to cover in the session today. Okay, hope I'm clear. Please note down your questions whenever it comes in. When we open up a Q&A, maybe last 15 minutes of the session or maybe 10 minutes of the session according to the availability, we would answer those. And I'm not looking at the chat, folks, because I am concentrating on what I have to speak. And obviously, give me an hour's time, maybe 60, 65 minutes. So I will hop on back to the chat and maybe look into your questionnaires and try to answer those. Okay, cool. So let's begin with Azure Active Directory. Boom. What is that? What's an Azure Active Directory? Have anyone observed Active Directory earlier? What used to be the Active Directory, an administrator goes in and creates some inventory of users, the groups, and the OUs, right? And domain controllers, domains. Boom, man. Most of the connected network, what we have got is listed or made an inventory list or registered in our registry or maybe Active Directory. So the directory services are very important and are still important for any organizations across the globe who have adopted or maybe who have been using Microsoft technologies. Apart from there, yeah, there are some other directory services like Novell was there, and some other Active Directory services, and even AWS has got something now. Even they have got their own directory services where you can utilize a similar aspect or maybe do similar aspect like an Active Directory. But what is an Azure Active Directory? That is important aspect. Correct. So if you are an administrator, or maybe if you were an administrator, have seen the Windows Active Directory, what exactly brings back to you as a thought process? What is there? What was not there? Right? You might be thinking, what is it is related to a security part? Yes, Azure Active Directory or maybe the Active Directory did almost similar jobs or doing the similar jobs. What a security is required. For example, your username and passwords are part of your Active Directory, right? So the Windows Active Directory did that help, and Azure Active Directory is evolved one doing the same thing. So if I have to tell you the Azure Active Directory is a cloud-based identity and access management service, which actually enables you or maybe your employees to access resources like Office 365 and Azure portals, Dynamics 365, and maybe your Salesforce, maybe anything which is there on Oracle Cloud, or maybe anything which is there on the SaaS platform, any other SaaS platform. So that's where we have got Azure Active Directory in place, which does more jobs or maybe facilitates more things to secure your data in different providers or different platforms across the globe or on the internet than what Windows AD provided as an NTLM or the Kerberos, right? So do not panic. Kerberos and NTLM are the two protocols which really help the people to get authenticated. So you might be aware of the TGT and maybe get ticket and ticket granted ticket and STGT as well. So there are many things, what we have got and delegated Kerberos stuff, NTLM. Yeah, there are many things which what we had earlier, but now we have evolved so many things. Like we have got OAuth, we have got SAML, right? So here are something which I have got for you to see, for you to have a look at it. What exactly there on my screen at the moment? You can see the Azure AD versus Active Directory domain controller, like ADDS. So ADDS and Azure Active Directory. What are the things which we have to understand here is pretty important. I'm little quick in this term because I assume that you all are aware of Azure Active Directory or maybe the Active Directory. So before I hop onto the ADDS part, I just wanted to ensure that people here on my session are aware how does it really work out. So let me show you portal.azure.com. It might take a minute, folks, because it will ask me OTP because conditional access, the default conditional access, which we will talk about it. It may not. Since yesterday, I've been using the same IP address and same machine, but still it is because it's incognito mode. Give me 1 minute. Just checking. Just waiting for OTP, folks. So how does this really works out? Because this is a conditional access and it really is not able to find, okay, Lingaraj is trying to log in from regular machine or not, was the main stuff, but it was not able to find out. So it wants me to input an OTP, which exactly I have to get it. 1 second. Sorry, I did not enter the email address where I have to get a. One, 9, 5, 4, 7, 3. Should be fine. Okay, boom, we are in. Super. So this is how the portal looks. Maybe most of you are aware of it. I've been searching or working on Active Directory since yesterday, so that's the reason it's on top. Usually people can go ahead and search here, and the moment they get a search, this is where the Azure Active Directory comes in. So what is Azure Active Directory? Azure Active Directory is the cloud-based identity and access management services, which can help your employees to access the data which are on mostly on the SaaS platform and mostly on the cloud. And you can enable your software developers by ensuring they get an API to play with it and ensure they can do miracles with accessing the software for their organization or maybe your organization where you're helping them. So before I hop onto the slide, I just wanted to show you guys how does the tenant really looks like and talk about a free Active Directory and Premium 1, Premium 2, and some licenses. So you might be thinking I will use the free Active Directory. Yes, I'm using the free Active Directory now here. Okay. And something I've clicked on, managed tenant or maybe manage some tenants. So these are the tenants which I have created for testing purpose and maybe some demo purpose. And there are multiple demos here, multiple tests which I have done. You can see here, yesterday I have created one for Adatum Sync just to showcase you guys the AAD Connect, which is at the end of the session today, we will do it. But now I just wanted to show what exactly or how exactly tenant looks like. If I want to create another tenant here, it's very simple that I just go and create it. And there are many methods, like I can use the bicep, I can use the Terraform, I can use PowerShell. Okay, that's the oldest one. So when I have got an option to create a Active Directory B2C and Active Directory is the one which we usually choose because we have got many options to play with it. I'm not going to create here. I'm just wanted to show that how does it really looks like. Plus, there are multiple options which you have been able to view here. So the moment I click on licenses, there are multiple options which I'm trying to get here. So users and groups, I don't have any licenses actually in my directory services. But yes, there are multiple aspects which you can use or which you cannot use. Like conditional access used to be here now. Conditional access used to be here earlier, but now it is moved to Microsoft Entra, which is another web page which we will bring onto the screen when I'm talking about conditional access. So if you want to use a full-fledged conditional access, you need to have a P2 license. If you want to use a minimalistic one, P1 is sufficient. There are license restrictions in terms of how does the self-service password reset really work? How does the in terms of privileged identity management or PIM, what we call in P2 really works out, and the free doesn't have any those kind of sort out aspects or maybe features for you to use when it comes to non-licensed one. The pay-as-you-go model, there's the last one which we talk about in Azure Active Directory. That's about you have got B2C. Okay, you can also get licenses features like B2C part, and you can help ensuring that you have got identity and access solutions for your B2C solutions of your company. Maybe the best example is an event organizing company would really require B2C licensing part because the users could be guest users who wants to get authenticated and gets access to the stuff. Maybe a co-working space like WeWork we have got in in States and maybe in India also, and maybe I'm not sure, where all you have got that kind of organization. So these kind of organizations would really require B2C segment of authentication. So we use that pay as you go feature licenses in those aspects. So this is how the overview of your Active Directory and tenants would look like. I'm not going to talk about maybe a debriefing of complete scenario of Active Directory because that itself is going to take at least 3 days. So hopping on to the next slide, which we were talking about, that is Azure AD versus directory services, which we have got on the screen. So what we had in traditional AD, that is your authentication will happen using the Kerberos and NTLM, plus you had users and groups authentication plus authorizations, correct? And plus you have got your domain controllers, maybe domain join, you have got group policies, right? So those were the stuff what you had earlier. And now with that, Azure Active Directory, what you're going to get for users, groups, and authentication and authorizations, you're going to get SAML, OpenID, Connect, and WS federations. Okay, so that federation really works out with your Azure applications, Office 365, and Azure resources. Where or how this can help my security aspect would be your question. Yes, for example, if you have got a federation, imagine you are working with a third-party tool where the swiping machine, the swiping cards, or maybe you're a POS service provider, or maybe your organization uses a lot of POS machines. You will have a vendor who actually give you RFID scanners and all the stuff where you have got a federation enabled. Imagine the security. There is something which you control everything, they don't control anything. And yes, your organization data and employee are always safe. So that's how you should really think about when it comes to federations, when it comes to Samuel, OpenID Connect. There are multiple aspects what we also talk about in these ADDS features, which are actually written below. So what do you get in Active Directory as an Azure is Samuel, OpenID Connect, and WS Federation. But if you have Active Directory domain services, you get structure of forest, domains, organization unit. So you might be thinking it is a little confusing for the freshers or for the people who are not been well versed with this. So you can consider that this is Azure is something of flat spread, and your forest domain organization unit could be something like a burger with more toppings in it, or maybe a sub which is of 6 food, and you have got all the toppings which are available on the menu. So that's how it really worked out earlier. And it was so confusing, but now it is a flat structure, which is just one tenant and nothing else. Yes, that could be a little confusing for the oldies or maybe the legacy practitioners where they were well versed with the forest domains and all units. But now you can actually use both of them and ensure that you're having more robust identity and access control system with Microsoft Azure. Having said that, I just want to ensure that you also know or aware of the sample roles which are really must in Azure Active Directory. You might be aware, what is a global administrator? Does everyone will have a global administrator access on Azure? Absolutely no. Why? Because global admin access is kind of like restricted one. Maybe some owners, maybe some people. If you have a company of 10K users, maybe you'll have what, 10 or maybe 15 global administrators across the country or across the globe. That should be the usual number for anyone to grab it. Security admin, billing admin, global reader. Yes, global reader is something, maybe many, I'm not sure, but you will have your service desk administrators or someone who just want to verify the service requests are completed or not, the incidents are completed or not. Maybe those are the global readers, and billing administrators or your FinOps guys. FinOps is most trending word. But yes, billing administrator can also help you a lot many things in terms of security, because how does the security really reacting and ensuring that that really works out in a cycle will really help you out there. Plus, boom, the security admin does lot many things on Azure. Okay, lot many things as an access. So you will have like M365 Security Center, Azure Active Directory IP. IP is identity protection, which we will talk in just after this. And also you have got information protection, that is AIP, and Azure Security and Compliance Center. Boom. So many things to have for security admin. That's in rule-based stuff, and what we had as an Azure Active Directory. And when you combine ADDS and Azure Active Directory, what will happen? You can see on my screen at the moment, there is an Azure Active Directory services which provides a managed domain services like a domain join, like a group policy, like LDAP, like lightweight directory access protocol we call. Right. So there is a Kerberos, new technology land manager, that is NTLM. Okay, nothing else. New technology land manager is NTLM. And well, those are the authentication stuff, what you get in Active Directory domain controllers, or maybe using those you get it. So ADDS in detail, just for you guys here, use these domain services without any need to deploy or maybe manage or maybe patching of your domain controllers in the on premises. So what does this actually does, this domain controllers? I did tell you that, for authentication purpose, NTLM, you take about Kerberos, you talk about anything, it does most of the job. We were talking about having that combination, right? The flat bread and, sub with the toppings and all the stuff. Yes, it really amazes you, right? As a security engineer, it amazes you what else I can do to secure the data and secure the perimeter, secure the identity. Yes, this is what you can do. So Azure managed ADDS service or managed domain actually lets you to run legacy applications in the cloud, right? So you can run legacy applications in the cloud and use the modern authentication methods, or maybe you don't want to directly lookups to always go back to an on-premises ADDS environments. You can absolutely nullify those and use this. So this is where you modernize your identity services and ensure that it is more robust than what you had earlier with the latest patches, with the latest things on it, because it is a managed domain services, or ADDS is something which is completely taken care by Microsoft when it comes to delivery of it. Okay, so that being said, what else it can do? ADDS can integrate with your existing Azure AD tenants. Okay, that particular integration lets your users, lets your employees set, okay, lets your employees to sign into services which are applications, which are connected to the domain, managed domain, and no need to change their credentials. It will be absolutely nothing for them. It is just for you to configure the managed domain here, which your applications can use it, and it booms it simply synchronizes with Azure Active Directory. So that's where we talk about using Azure Active Directory domain services. So you might be thinking, how does it really work, Linkraj? How does it really works? So when you define a namespace, which is very unique namespace, the namespace, what is a namespace? Okay, what is a namespace? Namespace is nothing but a domain name, right? So for example, I will say contester.com. Okay, or maybe a test contester.com is my namespace for now today. And there are two Windows domain controllers, and then you have deployed to your particular Azure region. So that particular deployment is called what? The particular deployment is called managed domain, what we call. So the particular domain we call also a replica set. So for example, I have got, okay, let me annotate on the screen. Okay, so I have got on-premises AD, and I want to deploy something managed domain here. So this I call it as replica set. So when I have got a replica sets, what this really help? You don't need to manage and configure the update these DCs, because the Azure platform handles the DCs which are there and ensure that backup is taken, encryption is taken, everything is done. Boom, once the synchronization is complete, you're online. You're doing nothing actually. But yes, you're doing many things which are not tend to just an infrastructure work. Maybe you're doing many things, like you might do a conditional access work, identity protection work, a lot of security related work, instead of just patching, backup, making availability there. Okay, so having said that, in hybrid environment, I just want to ensure that in hybrid environment with an on-premises ADDS environment, AAD connects is good because it synchronizes all the identities on your Azure Active Directory or managed domain, what we just saw on my screen. So when you have got that option, you please use it and plan it accordingly so that it is a secured way of replication of your data to the cloud and synchronize everything which is there on premises to the cloud, which is a managed services as well. So if you have an existing on premises domain services or the domain controllers environments, you can synchronize user account information, provide a consistent identity to ensure your users have seamless experience across the organization, be it a cloud, be it on premises. So you might be thinking, can I expand this domain to have more than one replica settling, Raj, in more sites? So yes, you can do it because maybe some of the law of land, maybe GDPR stuff would come in between for you. You can't really keep the data of users because of security reasons, or the law of land doesn't allow you. Could be China, could be European continent, or maybe it could be some other countries like UAE or maybe Middle East. No, they are not happy to keep a data outside the approved regions. Yes, you can have multiple replica, you can have an expansion of these setup to ensure you safeguard your users with modern services what Microsoft provides. Okay, let's hop on to the next one, which we are running a little late, guys. I will be little ahead. So this is something, the slide talks about Azure AD. Okay, Azure AD users. Let me show my screen, which is predominantly talks about how does this user creation works. So what is important here? You might be aware creating a user is not a big task, right? One command on PowerShell or maybe Cloud Shell, what we have got here, that creates everything. And here, just click on new user. You have got create new user, invite external user. There are good things which administrator does always is creating a new user or maybe inviting a external user. This is a part and parcel of your governance. So how Active Directory creating users and governance really related is important aspect here to talk, not how to create users or how to add users. So adding a user or creating a user is one way, but having a proper taxonomy, naming conventions, proper governance process before you go ahead and create a user is important as a security engineer. So as a security engineer, maybe creating a user has to be with proper rules and procedures. So that's pretty important when you are allowing people to create users. So this is about users, and what about groups? So there are something called new groups, download groups, or refresh groups, whatever you call it as. The moment I click on new group, what you are able to see here, there's a group name, group type, plus we have got membership type, right? So there's owners and members. The moment I have a group type, there are two groups. One is security and other one is M365. So M365 group can be used for your distribution list as well and can be created a Microsoft Teams channel as well. But when it comes to security group, for what the security group is for having an access distributed within Microsoft Azure, we call it as role-based access control system. Correct. So in the role-based access control system, we certainly need a security groups. It's not like we don't use M365 groups, we use, but it's predominantly recommended to have security groups. So having said that, you can read out here. So collaboration, giving members to access shared mailboxes, calendar files and all. But you can see here, when you are creating a group members, for the licensing part, for the service principals. When it comes to service principals are the IDs where you get access to most of your applications using that and defining the particular roles or maybe non-standard or non-default roles within an organization. You have to have the security groups listed. Okay, so I'm not going to spend much time on this because we have other stuff to cover. Any doubts on this, you can have it listed. We will talk about it very soon. Okay, so this is Azure AD groups, which I was talking about it before I hop into the hybrid identity, where we talk about different phenomena altogether. But here it is Azure Active Directory groups, which I spoke about it on my live screen on the portal. So this one actually talks about granting access permissions, right? And you have got limited access Azure AD resources too, if you want to. So groups synced from on-premises Active Directory can be managed only in on-premises Active Directory. This is pretty important one you have to remember. If you are a security engineer, if you want to alter something which are on-premises by default in the groups, you have to log into the Windows Active Directory in on-premises and check it out. So there is a distribution list and mail-enabled security groups which are managed only by Exchange admins. Okay, or maybe M365 admin. So you must have access to the Exchange admin console or M365 console to manage those groups before you want to alter anything. So there are group sites which I actually gave you a hint already. And before we hop on to the next slide, last two things which I want to cover: membership types. The membership types are assigned and dynamic users. So assigned is something like add a specific users as a members of the group and have a unique permissions assigned to the group. But there's something called dynamic user. So dynamic user is something, lets you use the dynamic membership rules to automatically add and remove the members. For example, if members attributes change, the system looks at your dynamic group and the dynamic group rule for the directory to see the member meets the rule requirement or not. If no longer meets the rules requirement, the member will be removed automatically. Isn't it really great? Maybe you guys are using it, but for security reasons, this is one best or the best thing what something, an administrator would sit and relax. Okay, I shouldn't be doing anything or I will not do anything. Dynamics group will do something. There is something called dynamics device also. Dynamic device is something, lets you use the dynamic group rules automatically and remove devices for using something, or maybe the system looks at your dynamics group rules so no directory to see, okay, this system can be used or no longer required, meets the rule, removed. So group and device both are available. Hope you guys are loving it. And maybe, you can actually ask something about Azure AD or AD groups once we hop onto the session there. Okay, so here we'll talk about AD Connect, pretty important topic. I will ensure that you see the demo at the end, but I just wanted to ensure that there is a slide deck for this, so you will actually witness something. Okay, so here this particular topic is pretty important because most of the organization in this era, what is the era? Okay, the era in this particular era, the organizations are thinking to consider cloud, or maybe they considered cloud completely and they are coming back to the on-premises. So it is not like I will get out of the cloud completely, or it's not like I will get out of the on-premises setup. It could be hybrid setup for some more time, or maybe I'm not sure, but current scenario situation tells us that, or we are witnessing that it's a hybrid setup. So when it comes to hybrid setup, your identities are spread out because you have got legacy Windows Active Directory. Okay, let's not call legacy or Windows Active Directory and the Active Directory. And you have got identities spread across, right? So instead of creating confusion, you want to work collaboratively and ensure that your system works like an organization. It's not differentiated like, okay, you're there in London, you're there in UK, sorry, you're there in India, or maybe you're there in Singapore, or maybe you're there in Australia, or maybe Malaysia. It shouldn't be like that, right? So like one organization, for example, consider IBM, they work as one organization, even though they are spread across the globe. So similarly, we as an administrators, or maybe we as in a consultant, or we as a cloud consultant, ensures that we do not feel, or we should not be making users feel that, okay, I have one for on-premises, one for cloud. So that shouldn't be the case for user IDs for the employees who are working with us. To ensure that that shouldn't happen, we should sync both on-premises and cloud. So connecting those with the synchronization of data 24/7, 365 days, every minute, every second, it has to sync because users would be somewhere, they would be connecting on-premises, cloud, the password will get changed. It should work seamlessly for everyone. It is all very important when we think about it. Am I correct here? Right? So when we have got this option or need, there is an option called AD Connect. The AD Connect is a tool which is offered by Microsoft and it is on-premises application. Okay, it is on-premises application, not a cloud application. We get to download it from cloud, not on-premises. Sorry, not cloud. So this is something like, we accomplish the need what we have as an hybrid identity goals as an organization. So if we are evaluating how to best meet the goals or the needs of the organization to synchronize a tool, which is like, can be a cloud managed solution, that's where, we get to see, get to meet Azure AD Connect. So software as a service is as a word for Azure AD Connect, like Azure AD Connect will integrate with on-premises directories and with Microsoft Azure. So this actually helps us to ensure the same username and password are used for some of the SaaS applications, which we did describe on slide 2 or slide 1. Okay, so I'm not going to elaborate it again. And now, if I have to check out a cloud sync, so how does this Azure AD Connect, the cloud sync, different from AD Connect sync? So there is something called a cloud sync. Okay, the cloud sync uh, is kind of like provisioning from the AD to Azure AD happening so that the cloud sync Microsoft Online Services are orchestrated in online, and an organization only needs to deploy in the on-premises, which is infrastructure as a based environment is required. Plus, this actually has got a lightweight agent, which acts as a bridge between Active Directory and Azure AD. So Windows Active Directory to Azure AD bridge is your cloud sync if you are using the cloud sync. So you might be thinking, what is Azure AD Connect Cloud Sync then? So Azure AD Connect Cloud Sync is a new offering, total new offering from Microsoft, which is designed to meet and help you to synchronize your hybrid identity and achieve your goals for the synchronization of users, group, and contacts to Azure AD. So when I say this, this is pretty important, folks. This is a new story which Microsoft built in very recently. Not when I say recently, 2 years ago, it was like, generally available Cloud Connect, Connect Cloud Sync. So support for synchronizing to an Azure AD tenant from multi-forest, like disconnected Active Directory forest environment, those were provided. Plus, they also have simplified installation part, which we can see now in a demo. Plus, they also had multiple provisioning agents can be used to ensure the high availability deployments are made, particularly in critical organizations which are relying upon password hash synchronization and um, password hash synchronization with or maybe from AD to Azure AD. So that's where the multiple agents required to be deployed to ensure we have got high availability. Plus, the Cloud Sync or Connect Cloud Sync helps you to support the large groups, which is like 50K members group. Consider you have got an organization of 400K employees, 500K employees, like Tata Consultancy Services. They might have a groups which is of 25K, 50K, 70K, right? But something has to be supported with that particular, that sort of organization. So in that case, you will actually see a benefit from Connect Cloud Sync. So these are the benefits what we speak about Connect Cloud Sync when it actually happened to be there for us. Okay, so let's hop on to the next one, which talks about some of the authentication options. Okay, here I'm not explaining completely, but I'm just telling you some of the three options which we have got. First one is the password hash synchronization, which we call PHS, PTA. PTA is pass-through authentication. The third one is ADFS. So ADFS is something, you federate your identity services with your partners, vendors, or maybe some of the solution providers or the maybe B2C providers like Twitter, Facebook, or Google. That's something, which organization needs will tell you. Because consider, I am a company which is which actually hosts Microsoft Ignite every year, and I have to ensure that my website really pulls out the data from Hotmail, Outlook the moment they use the login. So what I will do is I will build a federation with Microsoft and ensure that okay, whatever ID people put in as an Outlook or the Hotmail or MSN.com, those ID data should be pulled out and we will allow them to log into the application, which is meant for Microsoft Ignite. So that is a condition where we get to see a federation services really working in B2C model. And there could be B2B model where federation really works out. Maybe some of you know, and this is the most securest way to ensure that your application doesn't get harmed because you are getting authenticated or you are letting people authenticated by their existing ID. Yes, there are threats which we actually anticipate or which we can anticipate, but yes, there is a mitigation also possible. So this is kind of like not 100% remediation, but mitigating the risk what could come into your way. So pass-through authentication and password hash synchronization. So encrypted version of the password will be actually synced using the AAD Connect, that is password hash synchronization. And pass through is something like your username and password with on-premises domain controllers will be authenticated using the connection establishment what we have got here. PTA will not share any passwords of users to cloud. That is a mandatory stuff. So there are some restrictions, maybe restrictions, we'll talk about it in deep dive sessions if we are having in future. There are a lot of restrictions in each one, like advantage and disadvantage. You have to think about the scenarios where you are really implementing those when you want to ensure you apply those. Boom. So we are done with AAD Connects. We'll actually look into the AAD Connect demo in 5-10 minutes, not 5 minutes. Okay, because I have to give you some time for the Q&A. Okay, so this is something which we have to talk about identity protection. Yes, identity protection is important. IP, where we usually do a risk mitigation part and detect the risk, I investigate the risk, remediate the risk, making use of the data, right? So here we talk about conditional access a lot. Okay, so what are the identity protection features we talk? So there are multiple identity protection features. So identity protection includes 3 default policies for administrators where they can use and they can choose to enable it. It's not mandatory, but default is default. So these policies include limited customizations, okay, and applications or maybe things or the platforms across the organizations can be applied or can be utilizing these rules. So all of the policies allow limited changes is what I mentioned, right? So all the policies allow you to change or maybe you to exclude users like emergency access or break glass administrator accounts, maybe some VIP accounts, but not everything. So here, administrators, what they can do is they can create a custom conditional access policy including sign-in risk as an assignment condition. So that's where you use this identity protection feature to ensure the default policies will have a conditional access policies to implement or get assigned these aspects. Very beautiful thing, actually. I have added two more slides for ensuring that you understand the conditional access here. Okay, I just took a pause. So there are multiple things which we encounter on a daily basis, right? For example, someone at my door at the moment, but I would be confused to think, did I call anyone? Did I invite anyone? Was I expecting something? If I'm not having any clue, what will you actually do? You may ask them at the doorbell. Maybe you would ask, who is he? Who are you? Right? Before you invite them inside. Similarly, very much similarly, Microsoft has done a beautiful job in terms of ensuring someone at our door doing what? We have to understand it. Okay, is something coming? Was something expected? That's what Microsoft is trying to ensure. They have got surveillance. So Microsoft Active Directory conditional access is the beautiful thing which actually brings the signals together and help you to make decisions and enforce organizational policies. Okay, so this is what conditional access does. It brings in different signals to ensure that you analyze it. And conditional access is something like zero policy trust from the Microsoft. So which actually takes the signals from various sources into an account when enforcing the policy decisions. Example, consider I'm a scientist in a company called Roche, is a pharmaceutical company. And I'm working on some medicine from last 15 years. And I've been living in maybe somewhere in Europe. And I usually come to office at 6 o'clock in the morning, maybe stay until up to the late evening, that is 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock on my regular days. And Sundays, I don't really turn up. And this has been happening for last 7 months. Consider if someone logs my account Sunday morning, 6 o'clock, isn't it really fishy? Apart from my IP addresses, machine, they have mocked up everything, but the routine is fishy, right? Mr. Lingraj doesn't really work on Sundays, and it has been noticed from last 6 months or maybe 8 months. In that terms, what will happen? Oh, yeah, you have to have the signal, right? A right signal, right decision, right enforcement is the key to have zero trust policy engine deployed into your organization. And that's where the conditional access really comes into picture and help you to ensure you are doing a great job. Okay, if I have to take another example, consider a payroll manager wants to access the payroll application and it is required a multi-factor authentication to access. So administrators are faced with two primary goals. Maybe you can think about it. One is empower users to be productive whenever and wherever, right? So that is first thing. Second thing, protect the organization's asset. This is the biggest condition, biggest headache for most of the infrastructure folks, or maybe your customer, maybe your employer, that how can I make experience seamless for my employees? And how can I ensure that the data is protected? That's where, you are stuck in the balancing act, or maybe seesaw, what we have. We will be in a seesaw condition where, come on, what exactly I should be doing? And to do that, one should understand the common signals. What are the common signals you can see there? On my screen, there are many common signals what you are able to see as a conditional access or the continuous risk assessment and automation which Microsoft has brought in for the zero trust or zero trust policy enforcement. within the threat intelligence and telemetry division of it. And they made a separate portal for it, which is called Microsoft Entra, right? So they have done so many things here. So when you have this, you have got applications, right? So you have got applications, you have got data, you have got infrastructure, you have got network, correct? So what is in front here? Like, look at this, identities, you have got endpoints, everything is managed, managed by Defender, endpoint manager, Defender for identity is there, Microsoft AD is there. So this is where you secure your data. This is where you secure data. Isn't it right? Am I correct or not? Yeah, absolutely. I'm right because it's Microsoft. Cool. So that being said, that's where, we actually work out or, understand how does it really works out for us. So now time to check out a Entra portal. I'm just going to log in and show you the Entra portal. Sorry for being on mute, not mute, actually, I was taking a break. So you can see here, loads of options like identity you have got protection, you have got, learn and support. Okay, leave the learn and support, but again, variable, verifiable credentials, identity governance, protection, identity, so many things, you have got options in Entra. Isn't it really great, because Microsoft is trying to ensure that you get everything as in security part or security administrator, you understand which has to be taken out, which has to be not to taken out. So this is where you analyze the signal which are coming out and create a conditional access policies. So that's how we perform it. Let's hop on to the next slide, the conditions. Okay, so what are the conditions which you usually deal with? So in an organization, they might tell you that I should allow my users to log in only when they are authenticated from two ways of authentication. It could be anything. It could be your facial recognition and your password, or maybe it could be your fingerprints. It could be your MFA, right? So that could be anything what your organization decides. But if that doesn't meet what should be happening, that's also an important decision. So that's where, you have got an option, to ensure you have, when something happens, the action should happen and you have to define it. So that's something lets you enforce on conditions on apps which are based upon your on-premises or maybe based on, sorry, let me slide. So this is where, we end our slide deck for lab. Okay, so lab is something, we have got first thing done, deploy in Azure VM hosting and Azure Active Directory domain controller. Okay, create and configure Azure Active Directory tenant. I have done it. Synchronize Active Directory forest with an Azure Active Directory tenant. So this is something which I will have to show you guys. Okay, let me open the portal quickly so we don't have much time left out. So let me show you the resource group. Yesterday I built out the slab stuff. Okay, so I have a ADVM here. I have built a load balancer. I usually tried accessing using the load balancer IP address. I have not provided anything as such for, you can say, public IP address to the VM because I don't recommend doing it. And I would be sharing steps with all of you. Maybe I will share it with Surag. Surag would email you later. Steps to perform the lab if you want to really connect and see how does it really goes well. Okay, so let's look at it. How does it really go? Let's start with installation of AAD Connect. To install the AAD Connect, I was talking about AAD Connect being an on-premises stuff. What exactly we have to do? We have to create an on-premises VM, right? So we don't have on-premises setup at all. So what I have done is I have mocked up a situation here in this VM that this is an on-premises setup for me. That's an on-premises server for me. So that's being an on-premises server. What I have to do is I have to open this up and connect. The moment I start connecting here, it helps me to connect using the public IP address, and this public IP address is from my load balancer. Okay, I did have that connected. Just have to enter the password. Okay, so I have added a user here just to ensure that the same user gets synced when we enable the AAD Connect. Okay, so that being said, what we have to do next? So we have to connect portal.azure.com on this particular server. Let's do it. Give me 1 minute. I'm just trying to. See, edge is there. Edge is there. Okay, so I'm just trying to browse the data. Portal.azure.com. That's a basic stuff on a edge because whenever you start using for the first time, that's what edge does to ensure you get irritated. So I have created a domain for user to log in yesterday. I did a sync admin user. Okay, so it helps me to log in now. So I am in the sync admin now. How does I really install the Azure AAD Connect? Because Azure AD Connect is pretty important to be installed here. Now let's search for Azure AD. So Azure Active Directory is here. So within Azure Active Directory, I have AD Connect here. And now get started with AD Sync. What is Cloud Sync and all the stuff they have given here, you can read out. So there are two things, Cloud Sync and Connect Sync. Okay. So when I actually click on Get Started, there are options like comparison chart and all the stuff given. So here, download Azure AD Connect. I'm seeking Connect Sync. So I'm downloading it. Thanks to my internet. Looks pretty fast. Just opening it. Okay, this is a welcome screen. Okay, you can agree to the licenses here. Basically, you can read out also if you want to have a license terms and privacy terms in private. Maybe that should be fine. But I have read it multiple times, so I'm not going to spend time just reading it out. So here, just continuing. And there are express settings here. So use express settings or customize option. So which one is important for us to choose here? Express settings will not help us to choose anything because we have something to be customized. So I am choosing customize option. The moment I choose customize, there is an install required options, right? So what are the options which we have got here? What are the options we have got? So we have got SQL part, we have got existing service account, custom sync groups, custom installation location, import synchronization settings, correct? So I just clicked on nothing and I'm just clicked on install. Like I selected nothing and I clicked on install, which will really help you to do what all the required stuff. It finds out and it does the same thing. So here we will do password hash synchronization. Next page once it does, because once it does, I have to choose the password hash synchronization. Sorry, I just wanted to check if there are any chats. Okay. So it might take some time. Meanwhile, I can take some questions because it is 15 minutes left to end the session. Okay. So there was question on AD Connect sync and just a sync. I did mention differences, quite a well-known differences what we have for both of them in terms of AD Connect and sync. Okay. So if you still have a doubt, I can share the link where you can just of AD Connect sync. Okay, so I'm selecting password hash here and being enabling a single sign-on here at the moment. I'm just selecting this password hash and going forward. Yeah. So on the Connect Azure AD page, I have to give a username and password, which I had created yesterday. I am copying the username, password is there in my brain. Okay, I'm just typing in next. Look at this. It picked up my forest. It picked up my directory type automatically because this is where, we do a sync. So the forest entry is picked up and now in the account of forest. Okay, let me check out. The new account because the old account I don't remember. Just trying to use the new account. Thank you. Just 2 minutes. Okay. I'm giving you a password. Okay, now we have got so this warning is fine. Users will not be able to sign into Azure AD with on-premises credentials if UPN suffix does not match verified domain. That should be fine. Okay. So Azure AD domain, okay, so we are in the domain and OU filtering part. Okay, so here there are multiple options. We usually get to see here. So you can see here sync selected domains and OUs. If you want to select some particular one, or if you select sync all domains and OUs, you get to see all. So currently I have selected all because there is nothing I can select. Now, if I click on this, you can see here, there are users, to sync, system, program. So everything comes out or everything pops out. So this is pretty important where you have to choose what you want to select. So I'm not selecting all here. So I'm selecting to sync. Okay, so selecting next. Okay. So identifying your users is important, like uniquely identifying your users is important. But here I'm selecting default setup, nothing changes. So now we are at the filter stage. So filter stage also, you want to filter it out like synchronized selected one, like for a particular group or something. You can go ahead and do it, but I'm doing all users and devices at the moment. Okay. Again, here I'm doing a default one. In the interest of the time, I'm speeding up, guys. It's not like I just don't want to explain it, but yes, because this is a master class and we have many things to uncover in AZ500. I just wanted to ensure that you have a pinch of experience in terms of what is Active Directory Connect and ensure that you safeguard your Azure Active Directory. So that's what we are trying to do here. Okay, so here we have got the install option. Okay, so start the synchronization process when configuration completes is something I can do, or enable staging mode. Okay, this will actually give you not to export the data and all. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to click installation. It might take 2 minutes from here. Remember, I was showing you guys here. I have created users. I had created users here. And there was something called ToSync, and ToSync is AD user one. This is on the server of 168.61.46.206, which is on-premises server. And you can also see the server information that is joined to Auditum ADVM here. Okay, so this is something which we are trying to do it now. Let's see. Hopefully here we should have the users listed, the AD user one. The moment we complete that, the AD user one should appear on the portal so that Azure Active Directory and on-premises Active Directory are in sync. So that's a fundamental demo which I wanted to show. Let it complete. Meanwhile, Surab, shall we take questions because we have 6 more minutes left?
Sure. There were some questions in the Q&A.
I have only one question which I saw about AD Connect sync. Apart from that, any questions, folks? I'm open for the questions if someone is having any questionnaires. Okay. Sorry, there are some questions come up now. Okay, please, we use AD Connects version 1 and were told update before the end of the year. Can you please let me know how to update from version 1 to version 2? Version 1 to version 2 update is very simple. You may have to have a version 2 downloaded and do similar aspects, similar steps which I did, and ensure that version 2 is connected, and then you can uninstall the version 1. But yes, if there is a specific update required, it depends upon how many users and how many live connections you have got at the moment on your tenant. Okay. And there is one question from Ram Krishna Girl, which talks about tenant. So tenant is kind of like a domain or Active Directory domain in native, what we had earlier. It's a logical parameter within your Azure environment where you describe something within your tenant stays within the tenant. It could be your spend, it could be your networking aspect, anything which relates to your organization domain is called a perimeter, and that perimeter is tenant, a logical perimeter, not the networking perimeter. Logical perimeter is called tenant. Please, what is the difference between AAD Connect and AAD Sync? Um, I did tell that. Let me bring that 1 second. Yeah, you can see here the AD user 1 is reflecting in Azure portal. This was created in on-premises. So you can see the synchronization is up and running. So AAD Connect is successful. The lab is successful. Okay, let me complete the ask. There was second time ask about this question. So connect cloud sync. So we were talking about connect cloud sync a lot, but how Azure AD Connect Cloud Sync is different from AD Connect Sync. Okay, so Connect Sync or Cloud Sync, okay, are two different aspects. The Azure AD Connect Cloud Sync is kind of like provisioning from AD to Azure AD is orchestrated in Microsoft Online Services. And an organization only needs to deploy that particular SaaS application, or not SaaS application, I would say an exe file in their infrastructure as a service hosted in on-premises, where we get to see with some sort of LDAP access or LDAP type of agent installed, which acts as a bridge between your Azure AD and your Windows AD. But when there is a Connect Cloud Sync, which is the latest one, which I actually did download today, Connect Sync. So that particular Connect Cloud Sync is a new offering from Microsoft, okay, which can help you to ensure you get support for synchronizing to Azure AD tenant from multi-forest, even it is disconnected Active Directory forest environment. Okay. And the common scenarios here, if I have to explain it, is mergers and acquisitions where the acquired company, for example, VMware is acquired by Broadcom, I guess. VMware is acquired by Broadcom. It was approved by UK government maybe 2 days ago. On Monday, something I saw the news. So in that kind of acquisitions, maybe VMware was Dell owned earlier, I guess, or EMC Square owned. So that will get away and ensure that that company's Active Directory forest has to be synced with a new company, right? So that's where the parent company's Broadcom's Active Directory Forest, or maybe that has to be connected to the VMware. That circumstances, the Connect Cloud Sync will really like AAD Connect Sync will help you to get that. That is advanced one. And simplified installation, you just saw that, how simplified it is. Plus, you have multiple provisioning agents. Like you can install multiple locations, multiple ways. That is a best example for where you have restrictions, for example, GDPR, right? So as I told you, I did mention about China. I did mention about you have got options of KSA, like Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. If you have to have the law, follow the law of land, there are certain regions which are approved to keep identities, keep a data. That's where you get a chance of differentiation. And it also supports a group's worth 50K members also. The synchronization, when you are doing a synchronization, if members are 50K in numbers for any group, even then it synchronizes. That's an advantage what we have for Connect Sync. Okay, hope that answers your question. Is it recommendable to install AAD Connect on on-prem server instead of intermediate server? So again, the AAD Connect, it depends upon your solution. You can use the jump server, you can use the perimeter server, or maybe server in the DMZ. That depends upon your network security, how the data really works out. If it is just between connection between your Azure and your on-premises, I would suggest any server would really help out because you will have your VPN gateways connected, or maybe you will have Express route connected. And just to the Azure, it is not going to expel into the internet. I've been using internet here because yes, I was not having a plan of full-fledged doing a solution, but wanted to show you how does it really work out. And yes, if you have a capacity to do it, yes, site-to-site VPN establishment and connect your AAD Connect on private network instead of public network. So that means you are on safeguard. If you don't have that option, go for DMZ and maybe a jump server kind of setup. What are your recommending sites in continuing this study? Microsoft Learn is the best place to study. Let me show you a slide deck, which I have kept it for you guys. This is the ending slide which I wanted to bring. Okay, that answers the question. Where you can study, you can refer additional resources like Microsoft Learn, documentation, Microsoft Forum, right? You can do Azure Tuesdays with Cores or Azure Fridays with Scott, Channel 9, Azure Blogs, Microsoft Learning Community Blog. Bookmarks in full-fledged training I usually give. But yes, I'll try to share that with Sura. Maybe Sura can share it with you guys later. My query is what are the additional configurations have to do for attributes to revert back? So is that related to the attributes with regards to the users and groups? If that is the case, um, maybe you will have to rework upon correcting that at on-premises because reverting something is not possible because we have done a password hash sync. And P2 licenses are mandatory in Azure cloud. So that's an answer for you. Please, do I need to install a version 1 before installing version 2? No, you need not to install version 1 if you are installing version 2 directly. Can I get the certificate link? I'm not sure what certificate link he's talking about. If it is the one participant certificate link, Surab would help you out. Okay, let's get your participation certification. Okay. What are the additional configurations you have to do? There are many changes which you have to make while installing itself, because there is an option to ensure that the sync back also when you have a password sync. For example, my user can reset a password at Office 365 itself. In that case, that synchronizes to Azure in the backend. So that actually Azure should send back the password to the on-premises as well. That particular sync, that could be one attribute which you might be talking. So the AAD Connect tool has got that option. You can configure that in stage 4. You can configure it. Can we please have additional resources? Yes, Microsoft Learn has got full-fledged course. You can see here. So this is Microsoft Learn. Self-paced learning has got complete learning path here. It has got videos, it has got questions, it has got Q&As, it has got labs included in it. You just have to ensure that you follow that. It's an on-demand stuff, free for you guys, and you also get points to be added. Some challenges uh, are there inside, and that's actually fun learning, honestly speaking. So you can learn that. Okay, and so how can I get a participant certificate for a security class? Okay, I'm not sure about it. You can check it out. Okay, any more questions we have? Technical questions?
Think we are have gone through all the questions.
Yeah. Done. Thank you all. It was wonderful talking to all of you. I know it's very hard to sit quiet for 90 minutes and listen to someone. Hope I made you to focus. I grabbed your attention. I feel that. I thank you all again. As I said earlier, it was really nice opportunity to speak to you all and engage you all in terms of Azure security. See you at other end. Enjoy, keep learning, and good luck.
Thank you, Ringaraj, for the
Over
session,
to you,
and
man.
appreciate you taking the time to share about your knowledge of your AD Connect and Azure Security. And thank you all for joining us. And I hope you guys have already filled out the form. And if you like to be participating in the upcoming session, be sure to join our communities and be sure to check out Lingaraj as well on LinkedIn if that is fine, right?
Yeah,
Lingaraj,
yeah, yeah,
if
that should
they,
be fine. That should be fine.
yeah,
Yeah,
great.
you can come. You can come.
I'll drop his LinkedIn in the chat box if there is anybody who want to check out his LinkedIn. And the video of the today's session will be shortly uploaded in our YouTube channel where you can watch it again, or if you missed it in between, you can watch it as well. And that's all from our side. And there is no more questions to be answered. Everything is settled. And thank you, and have a great rest of the day. And yeah, thank you. That's it.